May all mother sentient beings, limitless as space, especially those enemies who hate us, obstructors who harm us, and those who create obstacles on the path to liberation and omniscience, may they experience happiness, be free of suffering, and swiftly may they realize precious, unsurpassed, perfectly complete enlightenment. Chapter 2. Prajna. The next day Governor Wei requested more instruction. The master took the chair and said to the assembly, "Everyone clear your minds and mentally invoke Mahaprajna Paramita." Then he went on to say, "Good friends, people of the world originally have the knowledge of Bodhi and Prajna within them, but they cannot realize it themselves because of the wandering of the conditioned mind. That is why they need a teacher to point it out and guide them to perception of essential nature. You should know that the Buddha nature is fundamentally no different in ignorant people and wise people. It is just because of difference in confusion and enlightenment that there is ignorance and wisdom. I will now explain to you the principle of universal, transcendent insight, so each of you may attain knowledge and wisdom. Focus your mind and listen clearly. I will explain for you. Good friends, people of the world who chant prajna all day long without knowing the prajna in their own essential nature are as if talking about food without being filled. If they only talk about emptiness, they won't attain perception of essential nature even in myriad eons. Ultimately, it is of no benefit. Good friends, Mahaprajna Paramita is a Sanskrit word rendered here as great insight, having arrived at the other shore. This must be applied mentally. It is not in verbal repetition. Verbal repetition without mental application is illusory and evanescent. When it is both spoken of and mentally applied, then mind and speech correspond. The original essential nature is Buddha. There is no Buddha apart from essential nature. What does Maha mean? Maha means great. The extent of mind is vast as space, without bounds. It has no squareness or roundness, no largeness or smallness. It has no blueness, yellowness, redness, or whiteness. It has no up or down, long or short. It has no anger and no joy, no right and no wrong, no good and no bad. It has no head or tail. The land of all Buddhas are all the same as space. The subtle nature of people in the world is originally empty, with nothing that can be grasped. The true emptiness of our inherent nature is also like this. Good friends, don't cling to emptiness when you hear me speak of emptiness. Above all, do not stick to emptiness. If you sit quietly with an empty mind, you are fixated on indifferent voidness. Good friends, the emptiness of physical space contains colors and forms of myriad things. The sun, moon, and stars, the mountains, rivers, and land, the spring and valleys, streams, grasses, trees, and forests, bad people and good people, bad things and good things, heaven and hell, the oceans and the mountains, all are within space. The emptiness of the essential nature of people in the world is also like this. Good friends, our inherent nature contains all things. This is greatness. All things are in your essential nature. If you see everyone's bad and good, but do not grasp or reject any of it, and do not become affected by it, your mind is like space. This is called greatness, hence the term Maha. Good friends, deluded people expound verbally. Wise people practice mentally. There are also deluded people who sit quietly with empty minds, not thinking of anything whatsoever, and claim this is greatness. This sort of person is not worth talking to because theirs is a wrong view. Good friends, the extent of mind is so vast it pervades the cosmos. When it is used so that it functions adaptively, with comprehensive clarity, it knows everything. Everything is one. The one is everything. Going and coming freely, the substance of mind without blockage. This is prajna. Good friends, All prajna insight comes from your own essential nature. It does not enter from outside. Don't misuse your thought and call that the inherent function of intrinsic essential nature. When one is real, all is real. The extent of mind is too vast to travel a narrow path. Don't just talk about emptiness all day without cultivating its application in the mind. That would be like a commoner claiming kingship for themselves without ever being able to attain it. Such people are not my disciples. Good friends, what is prajna? Prajna is translated into Chinese as insight or wisdom when you are not foolish moment to moment, wherever you may be, at any time always acting insightfully and wisely. This is the application of prajna. A moment of folly, and prajna is cut off. A moment of wisdom, and prajna arises. People of the world are ignorant and deluded. They do not see prajna, they talk about prajna, but in their minds they remain ignorant. They always claim to cultivate prajna, but when they talk on and on about emptiness, they do not know true emptiness. Prajna has no form. The heart of wisdom is it. If you understand it in this way, this is called the knowledge of prajna. What does paramita mean? This is a Western word which means arrived at the other shore in Chinese. If you understand the meaning, you detach from birth and death. If you fixate closely on objects, birth and death occur, as when water has waves. This is called this shore. When you detach from objects, there is no birth or death. As when water flows smoothly, this is called the other shore. So it is referred to as paramita. Good friends, people who are lost may reiterate this verbally, but even as they are reiterating it, there is error and untruth in them. If they practice it in every moment of thought, this is called true nature. To realize this reality is the reality of prajna. To cultivate this practice is the practice of prajna. If you do not cultivate it, you are ordinary mortals. The moment you put it into practice, you yourselves are equal to Buddhas. Good friends, ordinary mortals are themselves Buddhas. Affliction is itself enlightenment. Deluded the moment before you were an ordinary mortal, enlightened the moment after you are a Buddha. Fixation on objects the moment before was affliction. Detachment from objects the moment after is enlightenment. Good friends, Mahaprajna Paramita is most honorable, supreme, foremost. It has no dwelling, no going, and no coming. The Buddhas of past, present, and future emerge from within it. You should use great wisdom to break through the afflictions and mundane toils of the 5 clusters, or aggregates. If you cultivate practice in this way, you will surely attain the way of the Buddhas, transmuting the 3 poisons into discipline, concentration, and insight. Good friends, this teaching of mine produces 84,000 insights from one prajna. Why? Because people of the world have 84,000 passions. If they had no passions, wisdom would always be manifest, not apart from one's own essential nature. Those who realize this teaching are free of thought, recollection, and clinging. They do not create deceptive falsehoods. Employing their own essential nature of being as is, seeing with insight, they neither grasp nor reject anything at all. This is the way to see essential nature and realize Buddhahood. Good friends, if you want to enter the most profound realm of reality and prajna samadhi, you should cultivate the practice of prajna and recite the Diamond Sutra. Then you'll attain perception of essential nature. You should realize that the merit of this sutra is immeasurable, boundless. It is clearly extolled in the sutra, but no one can explain it completely. This teaching is the highest vehicle expounded for people of great insight and superior faculties. When people of lesser faculties and little insight hear it, they conceive disbelief. Why? When it rains all over a continent, human habituations are flooded, but when it rains over the ocean, that neither increases nor decreases the ocean water. Similarly, when people of the great vehicle or people of the supreme vehicle hear the Diamond Sutra expounded, their minds open up to understanding. Thus they know their own essential nature inherently has the insight of prajna. They are continually observant, using their own insight. Therefore they do not depend on writings. Rainwater does not come from heaven, but it is produced by the agencies of moisture, causing all living beings, all grasses and trees, all animate and inanimate beings to be refreshed. The 100 rivers and myriad streams enter the ocean, merging into one body. The insight of prajna in the original nature of living beings is also like this. Good friends, when people of small faculties hear this teaching of immediacy, they are like grasses and trees with naturally small roots that collapse in heavy rains and cannot grow. So it is with people of small faculties. They originally have the wisdom of prajna, no different from people of great wisdom. Why don't they awaken on their own when they hear the teaching? It is because the barriers of their false views are heavy and the roots of their passions are deep. They are like huge clouds covering the sun. If the wind doesn't blow, the sunshine won't appear. The wisdom of prajna is neither great nor small. These differences are due to the differences in the delusion and enlightenment of the mind of all living beings. Thus, with deluded minds and externalist views, cultivate practices to seek Buddhahood without having realized their own essential nature. They are the ones with small faculties. If you open to understanding of the teaching of immediacy, you do not cultivate practice grasping externals. You simply activate accurate perception at all times in your own mind, so afflictions and passions can never influence you. This is the perception of essential nature. Good friends, when you do not dwell on the inward or the outward, coming and going freely, you are able to eliminate clinging mentality and penetrate without obstruction. If you can put this into practice, there's basically no difference from the Prajna Sutra. Good friends, all sutras and other writings, including the 12-part canon of the great and small vehicles, were all set down because of people. They could only be set up based on the nature of intelligence. If there were no people in the world, myriad teachings would not originally exist of themselves without cause or condition. So we know that myriad teachings originate from people. All scriptures and books exist because of what people have said. Because there are ignorant and wise people among humanity. The ignorant become the lesser people, the wise become the great. The ignorant question the wise explain things for the ignorant. When the ignorant suddenly understand and their minds open up, then they are no different from the wise. Good friends, as long as they are not enlightened, Buddhas are human beings. The moment they are enlightened, human beings are Buddhas. So when we know that all truths are in our own minds, why not immediately see the original nature of true being as is from within your own mind? The Sutra on Ethics for Bodhisattvas says that our original nature is fundamentally inherently pure. If you know your own mind and see its essential nature, you will all attain Buddhahood. The Pure Name Sutra says, at that moment you regain the original mind, clear and open. Good friends, I awakened immediately on hearing the words of Master Hong Zhen, suddenly seeing the original nature of being as is. Therefore, I am popularizing this teaching to enable those who study the way to awaken enlightenment at once. Each of you observe your own mind yourself, see your original nature yourself. If you do not recognize or realize it on your own, you must seek a teacher who understands the supreme vehicle to show you the right way. Such a teacher has a great cause, namely to guide others to perception of essential nature. Because all good qualities can be activated by a real teacher, even though the 12-part canons of the Buddhas of past, present, and future are originally inherent in human nature, if people cannot understand on their own, they need to find teachers to point the way so they can see. Those who realize on their own do not seek outside, do not need to seek outside. If you insist absolutely that a teacher is necessary in order to attain liberation, that is not right. Why? Because there is a teacher within one's own mind that understands spontaneously. If you create falsehood, confusion, erroneous thought, and delusion, then even if a teacher gives you instruction, it cannot help you. If you activate the insight of genuine prajna, or wisdom, in an instant erroneous thoughts all vanish. If you know your own nature with one realization, you immediately reach Buddhahood. Good friends, insight sees through, inside and out, clearly penetrating, discerning your own original mind. If you know your original mind, you are fundamentally liberated. If you attain liberation, this is prajna, samadhi, which is freedom from thought. What is freedom from thought? If you see all things without the mind being affected or attached, this is freedom from thought. Its function pervades everywhere without being attached anywhere. Just purify the basic mind, having the 6 consciousnesses go out the 6 senses into the 6 fields of data without any defilement or mix-up, coming and going freely, comprehensively functioning without stagnation. This is prajna samadhi, freedom and liberation. This is called the practice of freedom from thought. If you do not think at all, you will cause thoughts to stop entirely, to be stopped entirely. This is dogmatic bondage. This is called a biased view. Good friends, those who realize the state of freedom from thought penetrate all things. Those who realize the state of freedom from thought see the realms of the Buddhas. Those who realize the state of freedom from thought arrive at the rank of Buddhahood. Good friends, those who attain my teachings in later generations will vow to accept and uphold this doctrine of immediacy among those with the same insight and the same practice. Because it is like attendance on Buddha, those who never regress all their lives will surely attain the ranks of sages. So you should transmit what has been handed on silently, since time immemorial. Don't conceal the genuine teaching. If people do not share the same insight and the same practice, but are within a different norm, don't transmit it to them, for it will be harmful to them. Perhaps ignorant people who do not understand may repudiate this teaching, cutting off the seed nature of Buddhahood for 100 eons, or perhaps 1,000 lifetimes. Good friends, I have a hymn on the formless, which each of you should memorize, whether you are householders or renunciates. Just practice in accord with it. If you do not practice personally but only memorize my words, that is of no benefit. Listen to my hymn. Communication by speech and communication by mind are like the sun in the sky, only transmitting the teaching of seeing essential nature, emerging in the world to destroy false doctrines. The truth has neither immediacy nor gradualness, but delusion and enlightenment have slowness and speediness. This method of seeing essential nature, ignorant people cannot comprehend. Explanation may be of myriad kinds. If they accord with truth, they are ultimately one. In the dark abode of affliction, we always should produce the sun of wisdom. When falsehood comes, there are afflictions. When truth comes, afflictions are eliminated. When neither falsehood nor truth are employed, purity reaches remainderlessness. Enlightenment is our original inherent nature. Excite the mind, and there is confusion. Be pure of mind in the midst of illusion. Just be true, and there are no barriers. If people of the world practice this way, nothing will present an obstacle. Always see your own mistakes by yourself, and you will be fit for the way. All kinds have their own paths, which do not interfere with each other. If you leave your path to seek another way, to the end of your days you will never see the way. Passing a whole lifetime in ups and downs, wherever you are, you'll still be tormented in yourself. If you want to actually see the true way, acting rightly is the way. If your eyes have no mindfulness of the way, you go in the dark, not seeing the way. People who really practice the way do not see the faults of the world. If you see the errors of others, your own error abets them. If others err but you do not, your own errors still faulty. Just get rid of your own wrong-mindedness. Eliminate the affliction with hatred and love not affecting the mind. Stretch out your legs and sleep. If you want to try to teach other people, you need to have expedient methods yourself. The moment you get them to break through the doubts they have, thereupon their own essential nature manifests. Buddhism is in the world, it is not realized apart from the world. Seeking enlightenment apart from the world is like looking for horns on a hare. True seeing is called transcendence. False seeing is worldliness. Set aside both right and wrong, and the nature of enlightenment is clear. This hymn is of the doctrine of immediacy, also called the ship of great teaching. If you listen confused, it takes eons on end. When you're enlightened, it takes but an instant. The Master also said, "Now that I have explained this doctrine of immediacy at the temple of great Brahma, I pray that all beings of the universe will see essential nature and attain Buddhahood at these words." At that time, Governor Wei, the officials, the clerics, and the laity all had insightful understanding after hearing the Master speak. As one, they bowed and lauded him. "Excellent! Who would have expected that there would be a Buddha appearing in the world south of the range?"